Jake, we made it through the first week and weekend of bowl season. Some of those games were kind of iffy, but now we get to talk about the bigger name teams, the bigger brands, the top 25s.
Yeah, the first week of bowl season had a ton of opt-outs, had some teams who, really didn't even deserve to make it to bowls in the first place. But we're moving on. We got some bigger name teams, some bigger name players, and hopefully some bigger bets to cash.
It starts off with South Alabama and Eastern Michigan. South Alabama, a 17-point home favorite.
Yeah, this game is in Birmingham, so it's functionally a home game for South Alabama. And even with that, you would still be surprised that every single article that I read in a preview for this game was on Eastern Michigan. And it makes sense. South Alabama's losing their quarterback, their number one running back, their number one receiver. They still have a lot of depth behind those guys. And Eastern Michigan, let's not forget, their quarterback is also out for this game. South Alabama had a top 30 defense and a top 20 offense on the season, and Eastern Michigan had a bottom 20 offense on the season. Even with all these sit-outs, I just don't see how Eastern Michigan's talent is going to be able to score any points on South Alabama's defense. And I think South Alabama is going to be able to put up enough points, especially if their defense can get some turnovers, which I would expect them to. South Alabama's played 8 bowl teams this season, including a 33-7 beatdown of Oklahoma State, and Eastern Michigan just hasn't really played the schedule to match. I know 17 points is a lot with the backups, but at home, and I think with a huge talent advantage, I'm riding South Alabama.
I was really high on South Alabama to start the year. And like you said, they beat Oklahoma State early, and I think they beat them pretty bad. But they were still a disappointing team at only 6 wins since they had won, I think it was 9 or 10 last year. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. And like you said, they won't have their best quarterback, receiver, or running back. I don't really trust them to blow out any team, even if they are at home. And last year, Eastern Michigan, who was a dog against San Jose State, a team I loved and a team I bet on, ended up taking them down. I think won that game by 20 points. So Eastern Michigan might have some bowl game magic, and I'm going to take the points in this one. Next up is Arizona versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma getting 3 points. Think about that. The blue blood is the dog in this spot. You know what I love about Arizona? They're consistent. They played one of the tougher schedules in the country with Washington, Oregon State, Utah, Mississippi State, and their offense and their defense still ended up finishing nationally pretty high up there. Top 20 offense, top 40 defense, and I think most of their best players are underclassmen, which means they're all going to come back. If they beat Oklahoma, they could finish a top 10 team after they started off 3-3 with their backup QB taken over early, and they're going to transfer into the Big 12 next year, which means they're going to be a serious contender to win their championship game and potentially make the playoffs. So this game has high emotions riding on it because they know what it means for that momentum going into the offseason. Oklahoma's a blue blood, and it'd be a statement if they couldn't win this game. So obviously Oklahoma's going to pull out all the stops and try and figure out how to not lose to Arizona. But Arizona covered against USC, Washington, Oregon State, and pretty much every other team they played. The question now is, how good are they going to be as the favorite? OU's got a starting quarterback named Jackson Arnold who hasn't played that much this year, and he's a former 5-star, so the expectations are pretty high. But if I've got to take a side, I'm going to take the side with the more proven quarterback, and right now that's Noah Fafita.
Yeah, ever since Fafita took over for Arizona, they've been like this. Their offense has been absolutely fantastic with him at the starting helm. They got 2 really good receivers in Cowing and McMillan, and even their running back is really solid too. Oklahoma, on the other hand, they're kind of trending a little bit down. They started undefeated, and then they go up against Texas. They win that game, and then they go on kind of struggling the rest of the season. And now they're at where they are now, with Dylan Gabriel opting out, as you said, including all 5 starting offensive linemen also in the transfer portal. So they're going to be missing some guys. I think Arizona's going to be incredibly motivated in this game, and they got pretty much a full stacked team. I like them in the spot too as well, -3.
Another team similar to Arizona in the sense that they're going to be a contender in the Big 12 next year. You've got Kansas having to give 12.5 points against UNLV.
Yeah, that might be a topic for another video, but contender in the Big 12, I think, is a little understatement. I think they could be a playoff contending team next year. But you got to start off with your bowl game in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl against UNLV. And Kansas actually is not having a lot of opt-outs. Most of their stars are playing in this game, which is a great thing because they have a really, really high-powered dynamic offense. Yes, they're losing their offensive coordinator for this game. He is going to Penn State. But I still think that Lance Leipold is going to be able to keep that offensive staff strong enough together and come up with a good enough game plan, including the game day play calls, to get the job done. UNLV has a really poor run defense. In their last 3 games, they're 0-3 and have given up almost 900 yards rushing combined in those 3 games. Kansas is 6-1 on the year when they average 5 yards a carry. UNLV is giving up 5 yards a carry. So Kansas's great run game against UNLV's bad run defense. Kansas has got a ton of their guys playing. I think they're going to be very motivated, playing for a lot. They lost last year in the bowl game, and Leipold wants his team to get it done. I'm riding with Kansas.
I think that's a really good point. Last year, Arkansas broke their heart at the very end there, I think in double overtime, and they're going to remember that this week. So I'm going to take Kansas. This might be my biggest play of the bowl season because Kansas has so much returning and so much to play for, like you said. Next up is Miami and Rutgers. This is a pick 'em right now. It's essentially a home game. Well, not a home game since it's in a different state, but it's right down the street at Yankee Stadium for Rutgers. It's going to be a game where the weather matters. Miami is a team who plays in a warm climate. Rutgers, for the last month, has had to play against a bunch of tough Big Ten teams in cold weather. Totally different style of football. They're built for the cold. Their QB played in it all month long. Miami now has to start their third string guy who hasn't played at all this year. And I know we see a lot of backup magic in bowl season, but we see second string quarterbacks come in and play well. We don't see third string quarterbacks come in and play well. So I just don't know if their starters who couldn't get this offense to go are going to now hand the offense over to a third string guy and then expect him to be able to get it done. It just seems like a reach to me. You know, Rutgers played in the Big Ten East, and they still finished with a top 20 defense in the entire country. I don't think Miami's going to be able to score. The line makes no sense to me. I think it's all about brand recognition, and that's why they aren't making Rutgers the favorite. But I'm going to have to say I'm taking Rutgers here, and this might be my second highest play of the season so far. I think Rutgers and Kansas are two plays that I absolutely love, and I have to put more than one unit.
I agree with you 100%. Rutgers is my favorite play of this bowl season, at least so far. When you look at these bowl season games so far, number one thing you got to look at is motivation. Which coaches is going to get his guys fired up? And if there's one coach who we know is going to get his team fired up, it's Greg Schiano. This is a guy who, for all of his faults, whatever bad thing you want to say about him, this is a guy who's super passionate and always gets his team fighting hard. As you said, they had a top 20 defense. Their defense is really, really good. I don't see Miami being able to score much either with a third string quarterback. I really, really like Rutgers in this spot, and I agree with you. Multi-unit play, they're definitely a slam for me.
Second to last, we got SMU and Boston College. The line has dropped from 11 to 10. You like SMU, but they're rolling with a backup quarterback.
Yep, Preston Stone, who was one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country this season, out. But you know what? He was out last week in the conference championship game against a really good Tulane team, and SMU was still able to get the job done. They have the number 5 scoring offense in the entire country. And they also have the 12th overall defense in the country, bolstered by a defensive line that's number 2 in the country in sacks. Yes, they have Preston Stone sitting out this game. And yes, this game is at Fenway Park in Boston, making it a home game for Boston College. But Boston College is only 4-8 against the spread this season. I think that SMU is going to want to get this number 2 quarterback a lot of reps because, you know, Preston Stone is not going to be there forever. He's only going to be there one more year max. So you got to get him some reps and got to get him ready to go. And a game against Boston College is a really good opportunity for your team to get hot. So I really like SMU in this game. I think Rhett Lashley knows that this is a chance for his team to get some really meaningful reps and really make a statement in the bowl season.
I saw that the SMU offense ranks 11th nationally, and Boston College finished somewhere in the 80s on defense. So I don't care who opted out, because both teams are going to miss a bunch of guys. I'm just going to keep riding SMU. One more point I noticed was Thomas Castellanos, who's the quarterback at Boston College, has thrown 11 interceptions, and he's thrown 7 interceptions in his last 8 games. So I'm going to expect him to throw a pick here, and SMU should be able to capitalize on any turnover opportunities.
SMU, number 1 in the country in defensive touchdowns this year. So they have capitalized on any turnovers they've gotten this season.
Last is Duke and Troy. Troy is a 7.5 point favorite. Move to 7, which makes me like this pick even more. I'm going to take Troy here, but their only 2 decent opponents this year were Kansas State and James Madison. James Madison beat them by 2. Kansas State beat them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Now, they lost their coach, but I think this team's playing for a reason because they want to get to 12 wins. It would be a huge accomplishment to win the Sun Belt and then get a win over an ACC team at the end of the year. You know, I don't think Duke's is motivated. They won't have their best guys on defense. Multiple stars on offense are out, and then they've lost 3 of their last 5, and they haven't won out of North Carolina since when? September 23rd. That's a long ass time, and I don't think they're turning things around right now. Like I said, at 7.5, I questioned this play, but at 7, I think it's a home run. This is a team who just beat App State, who I think App State's a respectable opponent, and they won that game by 3 touchdowns, so they should be able to handle Duke, who's depleted and won't have their coach.
Duke has had a lot of experience this season playing without Riley Leonard, their starting quarterback. He's missed several games, including some big-time matchups. But the loss of Mike Elko is just so drastic, and the guys that are sitting out on defense, I just think it's going to be too much for them to overcome. You got a low total at 44.5 with a 7.5 point spread. So, Duke, the books are not really expecting Duke to score more than 20 points, not even really more than 17. I think that might even be a stretch with how they've looked without Riley Leonard and without Mike Elko. I think the motivation could be very low for Duke. So I'm leaning with Troy as well.
And if you want to bet on any of the games that we've talked about today, or you want to bet on any of the other bowl games or NFL, basketball, or whatever other sport you watch, you can go to brothrow.com/YouTube. I put the link in the description box below. There you can sign up for free from any state in the US to bet on games at plus 100 odds. Spreads pay even money. If you bet 25, you'll win 25. Same goes for totals, and money line odds are better than you'll find anywhere else online. All the games that you play pay out through Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. It's really easy. So if you haven't tried it out before, Jake and I play there pretty much every day, I would say, and we're going to carry it into basketball season. But Jake, I'm excited for our games this weekend, and I'm excited to watch games going into Christmas and then getting into the new year. But I will see you in our underdogs video next.
Absolutely. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next one.